Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another edition of the All We Do Is Talk podcast. We are here with week 4 recap, here with Moody and Isaiah as always. How we doing today, boys?
Isaiah, another Victory Tuesday. Clap it up, Victory
Hey,
Tuesday.
in my eyes, it's a victory Tuesday. It's a
Eric
victory
closer
Tuesday,
to the
man.
number one overall, picking a new quarterback. Let's
Yeah,
clap
thank
it up
you.
for him.
Thank you.
Clap it up. Clap
That's
it up.
What
Everyone
you
got
mean?
what they wanted this weekend.
Bryce Young's already hurt.
I'll take
Bryce Young's
CJ.
already hurt.
I hope he doesn't need to play another second the rest of the season.
All right, well, let's get it started with Thursday night football. Miami heading to Cincinnati. A very scary game, but Cincinnati comes out 27-15.
Yeah, prayers up to Tua. We gotta start off with that off the bat. They tried to call it a back injury, complete nonsense. They almost got that young man killed. That was tough to watch. That was really, really, really hard to see. Hope and pray Tua is okay. Beyond that, it sucks for the Dolphins because they looked like the better football team before Tua got hurt. Their defense was a little leaky early on in the game, but offensively, they could clearly move the ball at will. Tyreek Hill was giving Eli Apple all the smoke he said he was going to give him, and he had a fantastic game, well over 100 yards. Jalen Waddle contributed. They were running the ball with some efficiency as well. The offense looked pretty good until Tua threw a bad pick, but he seemed to bounce back from that, and he was moving the ball down the field, and then he got slammed on his head. He was out for the game, and that was more or less the end of Miami's offense for the next 2 quarters. You could tell when he got carted off and the game kind of picked back up, Miami was kind of defeated mentally. You just didn't see the same juice, the same energy from them on both sides of the ball. And the Cincinnati Bengals took advantage of that. T. Higgins broke open for the long touchdown. That opened the game up, and that was basically the deciding points in the game for Cincinnati. Joe Mixon, they still can't run the ball. The offensive line still doesn't look great. Jamar Chase took until the end of the game to make any sort of real impact because T. Higgins was the only guy who could do anything. So the Bengals still have some things they got to clean up on offense, but the Tua injury and Miami's overall lack of backup quarterback talent, Teddy Bridgewater aside, gave Cincinnati a victory that has a bad taste in everybody's mouth.
Yeah, I what I take away from Miami is at least they got Raheem Mostert going. I think he is their best running the football running back. So I think with any running game to help that passing offense will help. Tyreek went off. He had 10 catches, 160 yards. I don't know how he didn't find the end zone. That was what I was betting on was Tyreek Hill in the end zone. But yeah, Tua is very scary. That was a very scary incident. Looking back, like we didn't even like think about it. Like how is Tua playing like on the pregame show? Yeah, it's a scary sight.
Yeah. First, hope Tua's doing okay. I have heard rumblings that he might also have the back injury might still be in existence. He might have both back injury and head trauma. So hopefully he comes back when he's fully healthy because then, we want Tua to walk when his NFL career is over because who knows how long that will go. Sucks for Miami because we all picked them. And once Tua went down, nobody taught Teddy. Not only did Miami come out looking slow anyway and sloppy, once Tua went down, you're like, well, now this looks like another Jets game for the Bengals, and that's what they use it as. Get right, their season is saved. The season is saved. Going to Baltimore, you see the way Baltimore covers receivers, get a W there, and now they're controlling the division now. So it was all good. You could take your hand off the panic button in Cincinnati, and you could put your hand on the panic button in Miami. But if we're being real, this is probably just going to lead to the next reason why Tua's probably not having a future there because they'll probably want to cut ties. Hopefully he gets good. Hopefully he could get back and save the season for Miami because it was fun watching Tyreek Hill be good with Tua. And unfortunately, we saw Jalen Waddle hurt in the fantasy team coming up limp. Hopefully he could get healthy. So Miami looking like they got some injuries coming, but it's the quarter way through the season. A lot of teams got massive injuries to premium players. Just ask Moody over there in Dallas. So now we've reached that part of the season of the NFL.
All right, yeah, let's keep it moving. Let's go over to overseas to London, where we almost had Kirk Cousins prime time, but the Vikings edge out the Saints 28-25, and I get a push on my very financially responsible bet.
Well, yeah, that's lucky. Lucky for you. I mean, you're good. You barely made it out. So first, Justin Jefferson totally controlled this game, destroying Marshawn Lattimore, who was so good, who had been having such a great season. So tough for Lattimore. That wasn't a matchup for him. But yeah, Justin Jefferson got it going. Kirk Cousins was looking great. And then, so Minnesota was running a lot of out routes. And then the Saints just made the right adjustment for it. And they finessed the Kirk Cousins interception from Tyrann Mathieu, which is great coaching because there's one thing to just shut down the play. They use the structure of the play to force a turnover, which is even better coaching. Kirk fell right for it, and it was the perfect person. Tyrann Mathieu, probably one of the easiest interceptions he'll ever get thrown his way. And then Andy Dalton starts getting things going. The Saints have some really good weapons. Chris Olave looks great. All these receivers really that we'll go over have all looked really good. This looks like a great receiving class. And then Chris Olave starts making plays, and then they start running the ball a little better. Taysom Hill starts making some plays. He's probably like a top 3 player on their offense. So that's a weird development there. Andy Dalton was doing his thing, and then the Saints start fight back. But really what happened was the Saints defensive line started whooping up on Kirk Cousins. And once that started happening, it also nullified the Vikings offense. So Vikings somehow find a way via probably the referees, a couple bad defensive penalties for the Saints, and they find a way out. Pretty boring London game.
Yeah, I don't think either team got a lot from this football game except for the Vikings coming out with a 3-1 record. We just got to start with the Saints. They did a lot of all-in stuff to be sitting here at 1-3, about to hand the undefeated Eagles a top 5 draft pick. I can't co-sign that, New Orleans. It's not good enough. Y'all need to find a way to start getting some W's despite the injuries. It's just tough to look at. They're out there with Andy Dalton, no Alvin Kamara, no Michael Thomas. Like, what are they conceivably? So how are they conceivably supposed to compete on their offensive end? Their offensive line isn't even that good. Like, it is just tough sailing to watch that football team play. They're listless. They look like they were trying to compete in a weak NFC conference, and they're one of the weakest teams in the NFC. It's just bad to see. They got behind early because they're the less talented football team, fought back late because that's what Andy Dalton does, and then they didn't get it done in the end, unfortunately, for the double doink for Will Lutz, who I thought was going to be able to knock it through. It was good from 60, not 61. You hate to see it. For Minnesota, they're very fortunate to be a 3-1 football team. They just seemingly were they looked like the better team the whole day, but they just never wanted to quite just close the door. Every single time they had a chance to just make the game sealing play, to just put the game away, to just make sure it was over, for the Saints found a way to overcome it. The Saints found a way to make another play. Justin Jefferson was fantastic. Obviously, what he did to Marshawn Lattimore throughout was wide receiver 1 in the NFL type of play. He dominated him across the board. Over 147 yards, touchdown on wide receiver reverse. He was everything and more for their offense. Dalvin Cook couldn't do anything. The Vikings offensive line is still pretty bad. Kirk Cousins puts up respectable numbers, and the Vikings look like the Vikings.
Yeah, I was always just waiting for the Vikings to stretch it to a 2-possession game the whole day.
That's not how they play. They either up by 7 or down by 7. That's it.
Yeah, I was just like,
We're still waiting
every drive,
we're still waiting for them to go 2 possessions.
Like every drive, I'm just like, let's spread the lead. Let's keep going. Like, I'm not asking for a 20-point lead here. I'm asking for double digits, so then if they score, I'm good. Like, and it just never came. I was honestly sweating it at the end because I thought I had 3.5 instead of 3. So I was in tears and pain until I looked at FanDuel. But yeah, I mean, the Saints are going to get 2 more wins. They're going to whoop on Carolina. That's fine. Go ahead.
What you mean? Carolina already beat the Saints last week.
Yeah, they have 1 more. We're going to lose at home. Whatever. I don't care. Panthers go 1-15 or 16. I'm still getting used to that. All right, let's move it on. Tennessee at Indianapolis. Indianapolis falls to the Titans 24-17.
I'm gonna keep bragging. This is where the bragging starts for me. Eric's unfortunately picked the Colts to go to the Super Bowl.
I don't need this right now. I don't need this right now.
As I said it, I was like, Eric's on the bandwagon till it burns.
Yeah, I gotta ride it.
And Moody picked the 10. He thought the Colts were a hair better, but like I said, Tennessee had the better quarterback, the better coach, the better culture, even banged up and throwing to what's left of Robert Woods. And they still got Derrick Henry going, so offensive line still looks really bad. Both offensive lines were bad, so it wasn't surprising that the defensive lines for both teams ate up. But the biggest shocker was Quentin Nelson's play has taken a dip, and he's out here getting beat for 2 crucial plays by Danico Autry. So the Colts are in shambles. Matt Ryan's turning. If you get close to Matt Ryan, he's putting the ball on the ground. The Colts, they're playing on a short week, so we'll see if they can save the season this weekend against another underachiever. But yeah, Tennessee was better, and I thought Tennessee was better. It makes that Giants Week 1 win, which I don't want to admit, look better. So let's go Tennessee. Even though I'm mad you gave AJ Brown to the Eagles, but yeah, better team beats bad team.
Yeah, the Colts are pathetic, man. That's a wrap. As Isaiah said, once Quentin Nelson has been brought down by the
Lack of people around him.
The lack of talent around him. It's bad. Matt Pryor is next to him at left tackle. He's not good. He can't get in communication with Quentin Nelson, so they're losing on stunts. He's losing one-on-one because he thinks he has to overcompensate, and then he himself just isn't playing very well on an offensive line that isn't very good anyway. That's a bottom 3 offensive line in the league, and they weren't supposed to be that. They were supposed to be a team that was going to be able to just plug and play a quarterback into a good situation and just don't fuck it up like Carson Wentz. But that's not what they're getting out of Matt Ryan. He's mucking it up every chance he gets. They can't run the football. Jonathan Taylor looks like a shell of himself, and now he's hurt. That just a nail in the coffin for them right there. And you saw it in the football game. They can't do anything on offense. The Titans were just relentless with their pass rush. They can't run the football. And if you get your hands on Matt Ryan, he will turn the football over by fumble or by interception. And that's all Tennessee needed. That's where all the 3 of their touchdowns came from Matt Ryan turning the ball over in his own territory that led to easy points for the Tennessee Titans. That's how the game was won. For Tennessee, they just took advantage of an opponent that's in a worse position than they are. Offensively, offensive line wise, and their best player actually is awakening back up again in King Henry. Another dominant performance. He's even making plays in the passing game through the air. It's exactly what they needed. Ryan Tannehill made enough plays off the play action to take advantage, and Tennessee gets another W. Fantastic win for them. Them and Jacksonville, I guess, are the best teams in the AFC South. It's not a good division overall. None of these guys are really contenders.
Yeah, they stink. Moving on, we got the Giants hosting the Chicago Bears, and they won 20-12. Isaiah, go ahead.
Chicago gets beat by over-pursuing on defense, literally for 75% of the game against Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones. Guys, the only 2 options that are going to do something on the Giants offense. So that's all I got to say about that. And then Chicago Bears offense does nothing. So Giants win even though they lost 2 quarterbacks. We saw Tyrod Taylor appearance too somehow in this game. This game had all the makings of 2 bad teams playing each other. But the Giants have a good defense. Dexter Lawrence had an amazing game, is the number 1 rated defensive interior lineman according to PFF. Doesn't hold a bunch of weight, but is important. 2 pressure. I mean, he had 8 pressures and 2 sacks. If your defensive nose tackles get 8 pressures and 2 sacks, you're going to dominate. And then Mr. Andrew Thomas, who is the number 1 rated tackle according to PFF. Not on any holes. Not like it's the Bible or anything. Just staying stats. Had another great game. And then Evan Neal bounced back. 21 pass protection snaps, 0 pressures. So They survived the game that they shouldn't have because they lost 2 quarterbacks. But the Bears are just – they have 2 wins. The Bears have 2 wins, and they might be the worst team in the league. So luckily for them, they played Houston. The Giants are ready. They have a hard part of their schedule coming up. Good luck to the Bears. Giants get the 3-1. And we just hope that we pull that upset I'm looking for in London next week.
Yeah, the story of the game, Isaiah said it right there, in 21 pass blocking snaps. Because that's what this game was. Classic 1920s football. It was horrible. It was just both teams just trying to make sure their quarterback didn't have to put the ball in the air under any circumstances unless it was absolutely necessary. Great. That was great for Daniel Jones, but as you know, with the risk of running, the injuries will follow. He didn't get hurt running, but he got hurt scrambling, running away, got rolled up on. That's just how it happens in the NFL. But I guess good win for the Giants. They beat up on a really bad football team, ran the ball really well. I'll give an apology for Saquon Barkley. He looks fantastic. He absolutely looks like healthy and back to his normal self. And he's carrying that football team. He's putting the team on his back. They're 3-1 solely because he's the gun guy on the offense who can make plays. They still have nothing at receiver, no real threats at tight end. But hey, Daniel Jones can run some.
Daniel Bellinger's having a sneaky rookie tight end season. He's the lead.
That's not that. 5 catches for a rookie tight end is a great season. The Giants are just better than the Bears on offense, more competent, and that's where they got the W here. For the Bears, Fields, man, it's looking over. It's looking more and more over. He can't even do the easy, even the stuff that we were begging Matt Nagy to do to make it easier on him. Justin Fields can't even do. He can't even do the easy stuff at this point. He had one good throw down the field to Darnell Mooney, and that's the whole highlight. They didn't even want to throw the ball after that. They said, "Great play. We're just going to run it the rest of the way through and hope we get there." And you just can't play football that way. They have to find a way to scheme a more competent passing offense. They couldn't do it there in New York against the Giants. Guys aren't open. Justin Fields is inaccurate. The offensive line is getting absolutely, Isaiah said it, 8 pressures and 2 sacks from the D tackle. And that wasn't all that where it was coming from either. It just was not a very good offensive performance from the worst offensive team in the NFL. Giants get the win.
Yeah, Ohio State is starting to get the rap like Notre Dame that they can't produce NFL quarterbacks. Yeah, I'm about fully jumped off the Justin Fields wagon. But on to the Giants. Saquon looks great. What is it? He averaged almost 5 yards a carry, 31 attempts. I'm scared of the over too much early in the season is the only thing.
Eric, the point is to use him out this season. And,
they're running him into the ground.
And move on. He has no future here. They should trade him if they have a good offer. I would trade him just to do right by the player. But he's going to carry them through this easy schedule. They're going to beat him up. Maybe an OPOY type year, defensive player of the year, at least comeback player. He's probably already got that locked up. And, whatever happens, happens. Whatever happens.
You're going to treat that man like Todd Gurley? That's crazy.
Give him a nice 6-year, $90 million extension.
Yeah.
That's not happening. So that's all. But I will say, if he finds a way to have an MVP type of season and the Giants win 12 games, he will stranglehold him for some type of that could happen. But we're gonna wait till that happens to talk about that. From now, he's probably just gonna win a quick, nice little comeback player of the year award. Everybody be like, "Hey, get your fantasy." He'll win some fantasy leagues, and whatever happens, happens. Let's move on to the next game.
All right, well, let's go to what was marked as the best game of the 1 o'clock slate. Buffalo heading to Baltimore. This was a push on the spread, but Bills finally won a close game, 23-20.
Baltimore, what happened? This is what are y'all doing? What's happening out here? You can't keep blowing 3 possession leads against good football teams and expect to make a serious playoff run, be a high playoff seed, whatever this is supposed to be. It's the second time. The second time. We know against Miami, blew the biggest fourth quarter lead since Peyton Manning came back on the Bucs in like 2006. And now we're seeing it again here. They were up 20-3 in complete control. The defense is playing good. Lamar's getting the job done, getting the ball to the weapons. They're running the football. And then it just dies out. Buffalo adjusts. They start stuffing up the run a little bit more. They stay in more control of Lamar Jackson, and that was the game. They couldn't do anything else for most of the second half. When they led, all they needed was one more scratch to put the game away, and they could just not deliver it. Obviously, the fourth and goal from the 2 in a tie game, they could have just taken the 3, taken the lead, and relied on the stop. I understand not wanting to rely on a stop against Josh Allen. They went for it all. And the interception was the worst case scenario because then it's just a touchback and not inconsistent.
You don't want to push all in and get an instant bust. Oh, and then the guy flips the nuts. Take our chips.
Gives Buffalo the ball for 20, and they just drive down the field, kill the clock, easy field goal at the gun, game over. Great comeback win for Josh Allen. Bills get as Eric said, the monkey off their back. They finally win a close competitive football game. Massive win for them. Just a massive win after the loss to Miami. They were looking down bad here in a tough AFC conference. You're going to need to pick up as many wins these as you can, and getting a tough road win against a conference opponent. That's big time for Buffalo. They continue to show that they're one of, if not the best team in the NFL.
Yeah, before this game, I was saying Buffalo really needed this game at home after the Miami loss, but they went in there, handled business. The Bills made it a point to not let Mark Andrews win the game, beat them, because he was quiet all day long. Lamar Jackson looked great. Josh Allen looked great. Hold on. I wanted to see on the Bills, like, he was spreading the wealth. There wasn't like a crazy Stephon Diggs game or anyone going off. They spread the wealth everywhere, which is I really like in an offense.
Yeah. I mean, I picked Buffalo, so I'm gonna keep bragging. I got some nice separation in the picks challenge going on over here. I picked Buffalo. Was not surprised when they were down. I still believe they could come back and lose because they had shown the ability to choke away those type of games. But because Mr. John Harbaugh chose to get out-coached by Sean McDermott thoroughly in that second half, I'm sure his job will start coming into question too. And Lamar didn't execute that last play. He actually did the worst case scenario. It made it easy for the Bills to steal it. So unfortunately, if you're going to go for a fourth down, the play you run can't end up in an interception. It's like or a turnover. Red zone turnovers get you beat, and the last thing you want to do is turn the ball over in the red zone on your last offensive possession. That sounds like you lost that game. So I mean, it's that simple. These games are that close, and that's why you kick the field goal to apply pressure to the Bills to maybe mess up. But instead, they get the ball at the 20, and it's like, we got to go get a field goal. We got 1 minute, 30 seconds to go get a field goal. Easy. And as for Eric talking about Mark Andrews, Jordan Poyer stepped up like crazy in this game with 2 interceptions. He blitzed, got the tip, and caught the interception. That just tells you everything you need to know about right there. And then the game-ending interception, he takes the hit after it, and he was doing a good job in coverage. The best – him and Derwin James probably have staked their claim to best defensive back game of the year because both of them have had one outstanding game. And this game for Jordan Poyer was outstanding, especially stepping up with Micah Hyde being out.
Yeah. All right. Let's keep it moving. We'll go down to Houston. The Chargers handle their business. Austin Eckler fantasy owners finally rejoicing in the streets. Chargers win 34-24.
I played Austin Eckler this week in fantasy, and I had Jonathan Taylor. So
sounds like you didn't win that fantasy game. That's just
I lost about 20 points because that's about how many points Austin Eckler outscored Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, good, big time. The biggest point here for Chargers that it proves is that they know that this team has given them problems, and they know that this team plays a certain style of football that's perfect for the way they play. So it's a bad matchup for them. But to come out firing, it shows good coaching, as questionable as coaching decisions as Brandon Staley has made, but way to get the team ready and prepared. They look prepared. As I said about Jordan Poyer, Derwin James was being a headache for Mr. Davis Mills in that Houston Texans offense. But also, come on, Khalil Mack was having a monster game and being impactful too. And Justin Herbert kept it simple, no turnovers, finished drives with kicks. And I mean, they get a big win versus a team they should have beat. That's what good teams do. Beat teams they should beat.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did. Justin Herbert looked a lot healthier this week coming off that rib injury. And they put the ball in his hands and told him to make it happen. And that's exactly what he did. He spread the wealth around, got the ball out quick. He put the ball in his playmaker's hands. Big game from Mike Williams. Big game from Austin Eckler. He got the best players involved. Gerald Everett made plays as well. That's just what you do. Against a bad defense, against a bad football team, they jumped out early. They jumped in their throat, and they made sure the game was over as quickly as they could. For Houston, they still managed to run the football really well on the LA Chargers. I was disappointed to see that I benched Dameon Pierce. They got blown out, and he was amazing anyway. So that's just how the Chargers run defense has to be, I guess, especially against
He
the
broke
Texans.
a 70-yarder. He broke a 70-yarder. So that's
he did what he had to do, but yeah, Houston they just looked overmatched by a better football team. They couldn't pass protect. Brandon Cooks finally had a bounce back day, but other than that, they really can't get anybody else going in the passing game. And defensively, Justin Herbert was just an overwhelming presence for their conservative defense. He just quick gamed them all day, made the explosive plays when he needed to make them. Chargers came out with a big win.
Yeah, I was going to talk about Mike Williams and about how even with Keenan Allen coming back probably after next week, I think they should still have this target share towards Mike Williams. They finally got him involved. It took him a couple of weeks to like truly start clicking, but now that it is, that's a real special combo. And Justin Herbert looks much, much better. All right, let's keep it moving to the over of the day. Seattle at Detroit. Seattle gets out of there 48-45.
I defied the cover gods, and it came through. Seattle was the better football team, and they got the job done here today. We have to some apologies for Geno Smith, who has been one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL over the first month of the season, completing an NFL record 77% of his passes. He's been far better than the guy he replaced. We can just say that. That's how good he has been. They are scheming it up in Seattle. DK Metcalf made big plays. Tyler Lockett made big plays. They did whatever they wanted on the offensive end. Rashad Penny, first-round pick in 2018, he is finally blossoming into the level of player they were hoping they were getting. And they've got talent over there. They've got good scheme over there. It looks really, really good for the Seattle Seahawks offense. Surprisingly, 2-2. They've beaten some bad teams. They beat the Broncos, and now they're beating the Lions here. 48 points.
two bad teams, like you said. Two bad teams.
They got the pick six from Tariq Woolen, the first second round pick for them. He's super athletic. They just held on. They got out early on a bad defense, and they just did whatever they wanted. They scored 10 points in every single quarter, a franchise record. Just an offensive spectacle from the Seahawks today and Geno Smith. For Detroit, you see the problems. You see the hits and you see the misses right there. Their offense, even without Amon-Ra St. Brown, even without DeAndre Swift, even without DJ Chark, was still absolutely incredible. They're just executing at such a high level. The offensive line can create holes for anybody. So it's just plug and play at the running back position. Jamal Williams steps right in there. Another multi-touchdown game for him. Ran the ball dominantly. And Jared Goff, 4 touchdown passes. He had the bad pick six, which is probably the difference in the game, unfortunately. But other than that, he was absolutely outstanding, throwing the lesser weapons. He made Josh Reynolds look incredible. And then we have to shout out the star of the game, TJ Hawkinson. 8 for $180 and a touchdown. He was unbelievable. Their defense can't stop anybody. It can't stop nobody. It's so bad over there. Jeff Okudah, after a good couple of weeks against some good receivers, got dominated by DK Metcalf. Sunday. Got dominated by him. They can't stop anything in the run game either. This team is more than a few players away on defense, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to go Jeff Okudah getting cooked by DK. I mean, he had a great stretch of like 3 weeks, I think, where he was a lockdown corner, but DK Metcalf put him back in his place. That was a dominant performance. DK taking the cart to go to the bathroom in the locker room is an OG move. But Jamal Williams is also stepping up in DeAndre Swift's absence. His speeches during Hard Knocks were fantastic. And look, he's leading out on the field now, which is great to see.
Yeah, it's the stat is through 4 games, no team has scored more points than the Detroit Lions, while on the other side, no team has given up more points than the Detroit Lions. All-time great offense with an all-time great defense. It's going to be they're going to be like the Saints from a few years ago in those mid-years of Drew Brees' twilight, where they're not going to stop anybody, but their offensive line is the best in the league. Their offensive scheme it it might be as good as a Shanahan McVay type scheme. Guys are always open, and it's got more power runs to it, so it's a different type of versatility. Uh, Tough. I'm going to point out that in the T.J. Hawkinson, Kyle Pitts debate, you don't have to take T.J. Hawkinson off the field when you're running when you want to be a run first offense. So if you flip them, would T.J. Hawkinson mean a lot to that Atlanta offense, and Kyle Pitts being the same situation here in Detroit. But there you see why a move tight end versus a fully complete one, the argument is there to be had. And yeah, I don't believe in Seattle. They're probably one of the worst teams in the league, probably still. Their defense is still spotty. What is Pete Carroll doing over there? But I did take them to hit the over this year in win total. So rack them up some more wins. Let's move on.
All right, yeah, let's keep it going to the Steel City. The return of the dog, Zach Wilson, goes into Pittsburgh, gets the W, gritty it all over the Pittsburgh Steelers, 24-20.
Too little, too late, Pittsburgh. Too little, too late. Yeah, you should have did this 2 weeks ago. You probably should have did it a month or 2 months ago. You waited too long, and your season's over. It's over. Mitchell Trubisky wasn't even playing that bad. Like it was a good game for Mitchell Trubisky so far, and they benched him because they knew from the jump he was never good enough. It never made any sense for them. Their offense is anemic. Matt Canada, the Steeler Nation has turned on him. He appears to be going to be the first scapegoat of the season when this goes down bad. They can't get their excellent wide receivers involved. They still can't get any push on the offensive line. They appear to have improved it, but not at all. They can't do anything. People are wondering, was it Ben Roethlisberger or was it Matt Canada? That's how bad this offensive scheme was out there looking for them. And they just didn't have a quarterback who could go out there and make any serious plays for them. Kenny Pickett steps in. He actually shows some dynamic plays on the offensive end. 10 for 13, 3 interceptions. So the ball never hit the ground. That's a man who's executing the offense as it needs to be done. He's getting George Pickens the football. Ball goes to a guy's hands. You make a couple of first game decisions. You end up with 3 picks. It happens. But that's the most encouraging thing for Pittsburgh that happened the entire game. And as for the return of Zach Wilson was what this was all about. First half, he struggled a little bit, trying to get back into rhythm against a tough Pittsburgh defense to figure out. But after that, he was lights out in the second half. He made a lot of big-time throws for them. He was able to show his athleticism, move the pocket. Running game worked well for them as well. And when he was called upon to go win the football game, he stepped up as a top 3 pick and won the football game. Great win for the Jets. They're 2-2, and they're looking on the way up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm liking Zach more and more the more I watch him. I don't know what it is, but like his elusiveness and making it off script plays is just amazing.
That's what Zach Wilson do. He's off script.
Yeah, and seeing them finally develop an offense that's not Joe Flacco driven is all I want. And I completely agree with you with your Kenny Pickett. Too little, too late. I think they should have started the season with them. Let this be a full season of maturing.
Yeah, Jets win a game against another team. Another game I picked the Jets.
So I got it perfect with the over. So like no bragging in this one.
Yeah, Zach Wilson was amazing in the second half. Showed some rust in the first half. As for Pittsburgh, without TJ Watt, they can't do anything on defense, and their offense is trash, even though it has a bunch of great weapons. Hopefully Kenny Pickett can save them, and Matt Canada is probably going to be the guy that gets scapegoated at the end of the season when his contract runs out.
All right, boys, let's go to the city of brotherly love where the Philadelphia Eagles hosted the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Eagles come back in this one, 29-21.
This was my lock of the week, so I appreciate the Eagles getting their heads out of their asses and finding a way to go ahead and get the job and done and cover here. The Eagles were the better football team the whole time. They really were. They had a sloppy start. Jalen Hurts looked a little shook with the rain. I think some of the elements got involved and hurt the way they want to throw the football because the Eagles have been very pass heavy. And Jacksonville took advantage of that. They got an early jump on them before Jacksonville started self-destructing on themselves. But and they got up 14-0 before Philadelphia just decided to put their heads down, lean on the offensive line. They lost their left tackle early, but they still got their interior and Lane Johnson on the other side, and they just hammered Jacksonville with the run game. Pounded them over and over again, and they bludgeoned them to a 29-0 run. This game was over in the second half. Philadelphia was up by 2 touchdowns. Jacksonville got a garbage one late. They still couldn't even come back to get the cover. Philadelphia led the better football team, just a slow start for them. They're 4-0. They look fantastic. For Jacksonville, they kind of came back down to earth a little bit after that initial start. Trevor Lawrence could not handle the rain at all. I think he fumbled 3 times. Put a glove on. Trevor Lawrence is out here talking about how he didn't want to put a glove on. Jalen Hurts out there with a glove on. You should put a glove on when you're playing in hurricane-like elements. And that's what cost them the football game. 5 turnovers. They could not keep the ball on their side of the field. They couldn't keep the ball in possession. And when you're playing a team like Philly on the road, it's already better than you. That's already had a really good defense and a good crowd. You can't hand them 5 extra possessions. They failed themselves. Their pick six, outside of the pick six, their offense really struggled to score points on the offensive end because they just couldn't hang on to it. They couldn't get the run game going. Just like I said, step up a weight class for Jacksonville. The elements definitely didn't help, but Philadelphia was a better football team, and they took care of business.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Eagles here. Jalen Hurts went off. I mean, not off. I mean, he was efficient like he usually is. So I think it's 16 for 25. I mean, awesome. His turnover is fine, but Miles Sanders being the fantasy saver in one of my leagues, awesome. If they could establish, I think, a 3-headed monster, if they could get Hurts, Sanders, and maybe someone else to have a 3-headed monster in the backfield, I think that's the best and can help Smith and Brown get open in the passing game if they have to load up the box for multiple guys that can run the ball. But A.J. Brown's a beast. He had a touchdown taken off the board, I believe, by a holding call. He had a great day. And, yeah, what you said with Trevor Lawrence, 3 fumbles is inexcusable. I don't care what conditions you're in. You got to hold on to the football. Job security is ball security. That's all that you have to have that.
You're cutting him short. He lost 4 fumbles.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
He set the record for most fumbles lost in a single game in NFL history. And the pass rush was getting to him, and it was wet out there. He was just giving the ball away. And if you fumble 4 times, I've never seen any team fumble 4 times and win the game. Fumbles are backbreaking. So, yeah, fumble the ball 4 times. Philly's offense actually struggled with Jacksonville's defense. Don't let the point scoring show. But Philly's offense actually struggled with Jacksonville's defense. But it's a talented young defense, but it's not an overpowering elite defense. So when they slow down just a little bit, Philadelphia got it going, and Philadelphia's got a top 3 offensive line, top 3 weapons, a quarterback who's looking top 5, a defensive line that's top 2. And those are the things you need to win championships. And James Bradbury and Darius Slay look really good in the cornerback room. So, I mean, Philly look like they got all the pieces. Now they just got to stay healthy because they did lose Hassan Reddick this game, but they haven't had that many bad injuries. So we'll see how health goes for Philly. And as for Jacksonville, they might be the best team in the AFC South, but that doesn't mean much.
All right, let's keep it moving. Let's go to probably the upset of the day. Atlanta hosting the Cleveland Browns. They edge them out 23-20.
Wasn't an upset to me, Eric.
I know.
Because I chose Atlanta. And I y'all could have seen it coming if you were listening to me. Isaiah go get his bragging in. I had to get mine in too. Not as offensively explosive as I was hoping for. Thank you, Marcus Mariota, for being absolutely abysmal the entire game. Like, your offensive line actually played really well. Myles Garrett wasn't out there, and you still completed 7 out of 19 passes, 1 each for Kyle Pitts and Drake London, just I saw watching offense for the passing game for the Atlanta Falcons. But Arthur Smith is a run game maestro. He's a run game guru in the Shanahan mold. And that's exactly what they did. They with anybody who they want to choose to run the ball with, they ran the ball efficiently. Cordell Patterson went down with the injury. He was running the ball well. They went with Tyler Algier. They went with Marcus Mariota running the football. Even their backup broke a 30-yard run. They just pounded the Cleveland Browns front seven that's already not very good, and missing Clowney and missing Myles Garrett. And they did whatever they wanted. They completed 7 passes and won the football game. That's where you know your run offense is being dominant. They did more than enough to get the lead, and they hung on late against a really good Cleveland football team, but the Myles Garrett injury was just too much for them to deal with in terms of handling the Atlanta run scheme. And they have enough weapons to scare you that you can't just load the box on them. Another good win for Atlanta. Well-coached football team, really fun offense. Marcus Mariota, the clock is probably ticking for that, though. The clock is probably ticking. You can't just complete 7 passes in a game. Is he that much better than Desmond Ridder? I wonder how long until we find out. For Cleveland, they did what they do. They ran the ball at a super duper high level. Nick Chubb was running. Kareem Hunt was getting the job done. Jacoby Brissett was efficient enough, but just not enough explosive plays in the passing game. AJ Terrell did a great job on Amari Cooper. Big bounce back game from him, limited his production. They really couldn't get any explosive plays going in the passing game. So if the run game isn't just overwhelmingly dominant, and it was really good here, but it wasn't dominant, they're going to struggle to score points. Their defense didn't get enough stoppage against a Falcons offense that with Myles Garrett, they probably slow down easier, and another stumble. But this is what happens when you're playing with Jacoby Brissett. You're going to lose games like this.
Yeah, it's that simple. We're riding the Jacoby Brissett train, and the team is talented, but his lows are low, and his highs aren't that high. So, I mean, you're playing with a backup quarterback. Let's not forget it. Cleveland should be undefeated. Cleveland should be 4-0, and I question if they had he who shall not be named currently because he's in suspension, how good they could be. They could be looking like the Eagles, yeah. The Eagles. I have to make sure I'm thinking with the right. Yeah, they could be looking like the Eagles. They have a good O-line, good, not great weapons. Amari Cooper, he's actually having a nice little bounce back season, but great running backs, great run game. A top 3 O-line, top 3 D line. They missed Garrett a lot in this game for sure. They didn't pressure Mariota, but that's the Browns. I mean, they're just literally just trying to stay afloat. That's what they're trying to do this year. As for Atlanta, I banked on their coaching this year. The coaching looks elite. It's probably the best coaching in the division, like I said it would be. They can make their run game work with anybody. And defensively, they've done some things with not a lot of pieces. They really still only have like 2 or 3 above average defenders. And AJ Terrell's having a down year, so that's tough for them. What else was I about to say about Atlanta? Oh yeah, let's get Desmond Ridder going. I mean, if Mitchell Trubisky is getting pulled out of the game for what he was doing, Marcus Mariota, a guy that I thought was going to be something, he clearly is never going to be anything more than like a Taysom Hill level quarterback who does some nice flashy gimmicky plays which you put in the package. But let's get Desmond Ridder going here. It's time. Now that Kenny Pickett has broke the seal, you know, he was the first rounder, so he had to be first. They couldn't have other third rounders playing before him. We saw Bailey Zappi. Like, it's Ridder time. It's Ridder time.
Yeah, thank you, Atlanta, for winning. Now, all 3 teams below the Panthers in the NFC for the worst record, I think will have better records than them. So thank you. Now we're only fighting Houston for the number 1 pick. I appreciate you. All right, we're going to move on to Moody's game. The Dallas Cowboys hosted the Washington Commanders and dominated over them 25-10.
Yeah, I mean, you see the high level that this Cowboys defense is playing at, and with Washington dealt with Philly the week before, it was just going to be more of the same. Just the offensive line that's getting completely overwhelmed by a furious pass rush, and that's exactly what they got here. They actually ran the ball pretty effectively, ran into the edges, especially in the first half, got some explosive runs, got them into range to hit the 1 touchdown to Jahan Dotson. That's pretty much it. The Cowboys give up 1 touchdown per game. That was their 1 touchdown. And that's all they did for the rest of the day. Carson Wentz getting the ball out the second fastest ever in his career. You could tell that Washington did everything they can to keep Micah Parsons from being a problem. Double teams, chips, lots of screens, lots of quick passes. Carson Wentz isn't a quick game quarterback, but that's all he could do here because throwing the ball down the field was not going to be a victorious thing for them. Trayvon Diggs obviously continues to put Terry McLaurin in a straitjacket. Will he ever make any plays against the Cowboys again? We'll see. I don't know. They'll always have 2020. For the Cowboys, Cooper Rush continues to be efficient with the football. Got bailed out with a couple of penalties to take away some turnovers. But beyond that, just another really, really good football game. He got the ball to the receivers. He's making plays down the field. CeeDee Lamb is really growing into that number one receiver role. He cooked William Jackson on an elite out and up into the end zone. The Cowboys just looked like the better football team across the board. I think it was pretty clear. Washington has one of the worst OLs in the NFL. Just a horrible mismatch for them. Ron Rivera, the clock is ticking because that football team is more talented than what they're producing out there, and it's a big problem for them. And the coach has to be at the front and center of it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Like I said, previewing it, I think they dominated them. You didn't even have to really run the ball that efficiently, and you handled them really well, which is scary. And I'm just gonna go on my Dotson rant here. He was my wide receiver 1 in the draft. If he had a better quarterback, what if I wish the Packers had traded up or done something for this man.
Stop stopping my man Chris Olave, the real wide receiver 1, from going out there. He's in it with Andy Dalton.
Who's Drake London doing it with?
Hey, not for my fantasy team with that one catch for 17 yards. So not nearly enough.
This was his first bad week, literally his first bad week of them all. But they've all been good. Now, as for Dotson, I mean, Eric, he's doing the best he can. They don't have any time. You're looking at teams that might have a worse record than the Panthers. The Washington football team, the Commanders' offensive line is worse than the Panthers. That's all I gotta say. This is a bottom 2 offensive line in this league. It doesn't protect, and they've got good weapons and decent quarterback play, which is the sadder thing. So literally, they have 2 plays. They're either gonna run the verts and have 2 check downs, or they're gonna run a screen. That's literally all they can do. They have 2 plays. They don't even run it anymore because they're not opening no running lanes. So they could blame Dan Schneider for falling out with their 2 best offensive linemen. They could use a Trent Williams and a Brandon Scherf, and they would be helping the NFC have 4 winning teams. But I don't know. But yeah, tough for them. And that's for the Cowboys. Yeah, their defensive line overpowered an offensive line that gets overpowered by everybody. I can't believe they beat Jacksonville already, and they barely did that. So I will say a second quiet game for Micah Parsons. Showing that he can be silenced with the right attention. So let's see if he.
So the rest of the defensive line can just overwhelm you.
No, that's only because that's against the Cowboys. That's against the Giants and the Commanders' offensive lines. Let's see how that works with better offensive lines paying good attention to him. So I mean, we'll see about that. But great win. A win the Cowboys, a game that all of us picked correctly. That's all I got to say about that. Picked correctly. And as for Cooper Rush, hopefully he could cost the Cowboys at least 2 games. He's got to cost the Cowboys at least 2 games. That was always like the notion that we were going to get 2 games at least thrown away, but he might have saved their season.
Yeah, let's move on to my game. Went exactly how I wanted. Arizona wins 26-16.
Yeah, it was hilarious that y'all were favorites. Just
Really though.
But man, it's the Panthers. Y'all suck. My God, it's frustrating to see. It's just Christian McCaffrey. Y'all have good weapons. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Baker, the clock's ticking on him. It might be getting late early for him.
And then it becomes Sam Darnold time again. Like it doesn't matter.
I'm talking about for Baker as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Period. He looks awful. Y'all can't make any plays in the passing game despite DJ Moore. He's throwing the ball 5 yards behind DJ Moore. It's getting tipped into interceptions. They can't create any run lanes. The only thing he can do is dump the ball off to Christian McCaffrey. That's their only offense. Like Robbie Anderson, he had his usual Sammy Watkins style week 1 and has disappeared. Guys like Terrence Marshall can't get involved. He's throwing the ball 100 miles per hour at Tommy Tremble, who's 10 yards away, dropping passes on 3rd and long. It's pathetic, man. It's pathetic what they're doing on offense. The offensive line didn't even look that bad. Cardinals aren't rushing the passer with any sort of curiosity. Baker has some time. He wasn't delivering the ball. He's holding the ball too long. He thinks he's more athletic than he actually is. So he's always trying to make guys miss, and he actually can't do that. I'm so disappointed in Carolina, man. That is a bummer. That is a bummer. They got a clean house. Defensively, they're still fun. Jason Horn's having a great season. They got some guy named Luvu who had a pick 6. He's having a big year for them. Derek Brown's coming up. Brian Burns looks good, but it doesn't matter because the offense is just completely incompetent. And for the Cardinals, they played with their food early. They threw the pick 6. They're still not a very good football team themselves, so they're over there just trying to not trip over their own feet, not trying to shoot themselves in the foot. But in the second half, something just clicked for Kyler Murray. He got involved in the run game a little bit, and then he started tearing them to pieces. They couldn't get any pass rush on him. He was standing in the pocket. He was just delivering the ball right where it needed to be. Marquise Brown had a monster game. He put him away after a couple of more Carolina Panthers turnovers. And the Cardinals might have saved their season with back-to-back wins against the Raiders and the Panthers. They're looking on the upswing. They're in a deadlock 2-2 division. Good win for them against an ugly, ugly football team in Carolina.
Yeah, it's brutal. Worst quarterback play in the league. And boys, let me read you their next 3 to 4 games. Hosting the San Francisco 49ers. Going to the Los Angeles Rams, and then Tampa Bay. These are the
last 3 starts of Baker Mayfield's career possible. It's definitely the last 3 coaching starts for Matt Rhule. This is about to be it.
we still have to play Cincinnati, Baltimore, Denver, and the Bucks after in 2 weeks. This is tank season. I don't know what else you need to see from Baker or anything to go. We have the weapons. We have the defense. What has been abysmal? The quarterback play and the offensive line. I don't understand. I don't understand. The quarterback play is so bad. It's literally like what Moody said, where it's only dumping it to Christian McCaffrey to where he has 9 catches for 81 yards. And his longest play, he had a 34, and that's it. Like, it's unreal. It's hard to watch. We were barely on Red Zone. Thank you. I have Red Zone. Thank you. I don't want to watch this team. Just keep on losing.
I mean, Matt Rhule spurned the Giants because we wouldn't give him the big contract. Ben McAdoo, do I have to say anything more? And Baker Mayfield always been overrated. Unfortunately, I'm enjoying this a little too much. Unfortunately, y'all made me buy into this DJ Moore hype. So now I have a fantasy team that has – luckily, that's my best fantasy team where I have depth at running back, so you could overcome some bad wide receivers. But Baker Mayfield has looked as bad as Sam Darnold.
It's got to be Matt Rhule. How does every quarterback who comes there looks like the worst quarterback in the NFL? Whether it's Sam Darnold.
PJ Walker looks the best of
slightly better than the worst. That's at best. He looks slightly better than the worst.
So yeah, the coaching is Matt Rhule's career. They're probably gonna make him sit out this year and make sure they bury his name so he never comes back on some Hugh Jackson stuff. They're like, hey, this is we tanking anyway. You going down with the ship. But man, who thought it was a good idea to give Ben McAdoo's offense a retread? That's where y'all went wrong. That's where y'all went wrong. So yeah, the Panthers suck, and Arizona, the team they played, that was the 1-point dog.
No, they started the game a 1.5 point favorite.
I saw betting sites that had him as a dog still because I was like, I took it. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and
all
add
day.
this to the parlay.
So easy. It was so easy.
But Arizona's coaching is still questionable. But Kyler Murray's a baller when he's not being
distracted.
He has to wake up out of video game mode and then takes the whole first quarter, sometimes a half if he went real hard. But yeah, let's move along. We don't need to talk about the team that's competing with the Texans for the #1 overall pick.
We're winning that. We're winning that. Anyway, all right, let's go to Las Vegas hosting Denver, the game where someone needed to save their season, and the Las Vegas Raiders come out on top 32-23.
I was wrong. I was the only one wrong here on this one. I didn't see how the Raiders could save their season, but apparently Denver is the team with the worst coaching. And that's it. It's that simple. These are the two most poorly coached teams in the league. And that's saying something because there's some poorly coached teams in this league. I even think Matt Rule has coached a better shift than these guys. He just can't get the quarterback play good, which is just one thing. At least his defense is up to par. But on these teams, there are just bad penalties. They're bad turnovers. They're bad sacks taken. We don't got to talk Melvin Gordon, so we got bad fumbles. Just bad everything for these teams. But the Raiders have more weapons. They have suffered, unfortunately for Denver. The injuries have come. They already started early when they lost Tim Patrick, but now they've come for what I would believe is their best offensive player, Mr. Javonte Williams, who they weren't even using like that. They were just about to hand him the keys to the job, and now they got to go through the rest of the year handing the ball off to Melvin Gordon. I'm sure he's going to fumble double-digit times this season if they let him play that much. But the Raiders saved their season. They got to win. I don't know. It looks like that AFC West that we thought was going to be – I predicted to put 4 teams in the playoffs, which is still possible because all these teams are still better than the Colts, who are predicted to be in the Super Bowl. But, yeah, we'll see. It's still early. Both these teams could still save their season, but they're so badly coached. Penalties everywhere. Penalties, nothing screams bad coaching more than excessive penalties, and there are excessive penalties when the Raiders and Broncos are involved. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just about out on the Broncos. I'm hanging on by the hair on my chin. But the Javonte Williams injury is devastating. The ACL, the LCL. The Marcus Lattimore injury. We're praying for him to have a full recovery. Too talented. You don't want to see that happen. But other than that, like Isaiah said, this continues to be the worst coached offense in the NFL. I watched last week in prime time. I watched Denver let Cam Fleming go one-on-one with Nick Bosa and let this Nick Bosa wreck their offense. And then the next week they came out and let Max Crosby do the exact same thing. And I just don't understand. I just don't understand what they're doing out here. The offensive line is obviously not good. It's clearly horrendously bad, outrageously bad.
It wasn't bad last year. And Seattle's offensive line was bad last year.
But Seattle added 2 new tackles, so we have to remember that as well. Colton Miller is having a regression. I mean, not Colton Miller. Garrett Bowles is having a regressive type of season.
He's back to holding the line.
Cam Fleming does not look good on the other side at all as well. They don't help those guys. They have nothing at tight end. And now they can't run. Now their best running back is out. Melvin Gordon's putting the ball on the ground. Their best running game is now Russell Wilson in his 30s trying to make plays scrambling. It doesn't look great. Passing game, they actually woke up a little bit because of the Raiders' really bad secondary. So Courtland Sutton, KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, 2 of those guys got into the end zone. Hamler had a big explosive play. They threw the ball pretty well. Russell Wilson was by far the best quarterback on the field, and it didn't matter. And it just didn't matter because of their own mistakes, their own sloppiness, their own inability to get out of their own way. It's just holding back a very talented football team. And defensively, just ran over. They let Josh Jacobs go 28 for a $145, get into the end zone. That's how they ended the game. Like the Broncos scored to cut the lead down, and they just needed to get a stop. And the Raiders killed 4 or 5 minutes off the clock, just handing the ball off, dominating them on the ground, 200+ yards on the ground. Big win for Vegas. Obviously, we might start talking about Derek Carr a little bit. He's having a very mediocre season for somebody who's been handed a Ferrari. And Devontae Adams, he's still got Darren Waller. They're running for 200 yards. And
not just a Ferrari. They handed him $200 million with that Ferrari too.
So like Derek Carr has been tasked to come be this, to elevate, to be Eric, put him in his top 10 at quarterbacks. He's been tasked to be that level of player, and he hasn't delivered on that yet. They found a way to win here. They got the job done at home against a team scrambling more than them, but you just need more from the quarterback position, and the defense still not pretty. It's still not good enough on the back end for them to be a real playoff contender, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you all said everything that needs to be said in that game. I'm just going to move it on because I don't need to repeat everything y'all just said. All right, let's go to Green Bay, where they hosted the New England Patriots. Green Bay edges out the third string quarterback 27-24.
Y'all was doubting my man Bill. I told you he was coming to cover 9.5 for a team that's got Romeo Doubs and Randall Cobb as their top receivers against Bill Belichick. Of course, the game was going to be close. You hate to see Axel Brian Hoyer going out right away, just immediately making the worst case scenario.
He's done that like his last 3 starts.
Right away, like it's what he does. It's immediately, as soon as he takes a bump, he's done for the afternoon. That's just how it's been for him. Not really living up to the name Axel. But anyway, Bailey Zappi getting in there. The Packers have the most talented defense in the NFL, and they're so soft. And that's exactly what you saw here. New England just ran the ball down their throat as much as they needed to do it. The Packers just allowed them to do it, just allowed them to march down the field. And then Bailey Zappi found a way to get into the end zone a couple of times against a Packers defense that just picks and chooses their spots to be great. They can't stop the run in between the tackles, and that's New England's strength. That's how they stayed in the game. They were able to hit them with some play action, and just a really good game plan from New England overall. It looked way better than it's ever looked with Mac Jones to this point. So I think that's something to be said. Maybe Matt Patricia and Joe Judge are finding their stride. I don't know. We'll see. But overall, overall, a much better offensive effort from the Patriots. And for the Packers, once again, they're on their way to another ugly 12-13 win season. It's just what they do. It happens every year. Their offense is nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing special. Aaron Rodgers makes a couple of good throws. They get the run game involved, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all they have. And Aaron Rodgers will make the play as long as they're in the game in the fourth quarter. Aaron Rodgers is good enough to win it at the end. And that's how they got out of here. They need to beat a bad team better than this. But winning ugly is still winning, and that's what Green Bay did here.
Yeah, I'm going to highlight Jack Jones. Bill Belichick is doing it again, developing another corner. It was Stephon Gilmore. It was J.C. Jackson, and now it's Jack Jones. He is pushing these. I don't need to pay $20 million for a corner. I can just develop one. And he was electric and was a quarter of their offense this week. So he's going to – it's been him and, like, J.C. Horn have been, like, the best 2 corners, like, in the league. What did I want about the Packers? The Packers' run game, like, their 2-headed monster with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones has been decent, but I'm sure it hasn't been the explosion that they expected to when they let Devontae Adams walk out the door. It's so blatant. They're like, we really need a weapon. Damn. Ours is in Vegas. It's unreal.
Let's drop the D tackle in the first round who can't get on the field instead. Green Bay. Never change.
Yeah, Moody said it best. Green Bay looks like they're going to slowly walk towards another 13-win season and get dispatched in the playoffs. Like, it's the year. It's their new shtick. It's their new shtick. They don't have any talent. This team is the most talent, is the least super talented team I've ever seen in my life. That's the best way to say it. They have a bunch of talent, but never look overbearingly talented. So, I mean, they're missing a receiver. I think these young guys are going to come along. That's a bad pick 6, Aaron. Come on now. Come on. He's thrown a lot of interceptions this year already, but I'm sure he might not throw any more for the rest of the season. But not a much boring game where Green Bay wins because they were always going to win this game. The Patriots are playing with their second and third string quarterback. They're always going to win that game, but they barely won it. That's the problem because the Patriots are good at running the ball, like Woody said, so they just ran the ball up their throats. But next, let's keep moving.
All right, this is my game to brag. Kansas City at Tampa Bay. I'm the only one to pick Kansas City. This was a shellacking from the start. The fumble at the beginning, the writing was on the wall. Yeah, it was great. It was a great feeling to be right. I'll give myself a round of applause here. But no, Patrick Mahomes was great. CHE is becoming one of my top fantasy scorers. Yes, that is propaganda for someone in this chat. But yeah, the Chiefs finally getting it done, and they don't seem to be missing a beat from missing Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, when Patrick Mahomes feels like he's the best player on planet Earth, and it ain't close.
It's close. There's lots of players that are really close.
When he decides to amp it up, when he decides to ramp it up, he was licking his chops, looking at Devin White trying to come save the day before he hit another highlight play on that. He was spectacular. He was unbelievable. They were taking advantage of Lavonte David and Devin White. That's how good these guys are. That's how good Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are, that they took those guys out to the woodshed. 9 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown. They were hitting them with the quick game all night. 30 carries, 190 yards on the Tampa Bay defense in the run game. They did whatever they wanted to them. Absolutely whatever they wanted all game long. Like Eric said, once Rachaad White for the Bucks put that ball on the ground in the opening kickoff, we were well on our way. You could get the horses going. You could get the fat ladies warmed up. It was a wrap. Patrick Mahomes, he continues to be the king. For the Bucks, they just ran into a buzzsaw here. They weren't the better football team. Maybe the hurricane, maybe going through their stuff, some family stuff at home, got in their heads a little bit, maybe made them play not their best effort. That's probably what we saw here. I think they're a better defense and a better football team than what we saw, but they just got their asses kicked, honestly, on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, Eric, I'm never gonna be mad when my homie, beats up on TV12. So I wasn't mad to be wrong. Once he put that ball on the ground, off to the races Kansas City went. I'm going to start to get scared about this Tampa Bay offense, but that's not how we think they're going to carry themselves. They're not going to beat the elite offenses. That's why they lost to Green Bay. They're not going to beat the elite quarterbacks, but luckily there are only 5 to 10 elite quarterbacks, and really is only 5 elite quarterbacks, and they have one of them. So as long as they're not playing an elite quarterback on the other side, they're going to be fine as they crawl their way to carrying Tom Brady, a la Peyton Manning 2015, to a Super Bowl run. I'm not helping off that bandwagon, but as for the Chiefs, they're a buzzsaw. There are a few teams that can hit that stride where they just run through teams. They were doing it. What did I want to bring up? Andy Reid was calling plays. Surprisingly, that might be the last death nail in Mr. Eric Bieniemy ever coaching anything. We'll see how that works out for him going forward. But not much to say other than another primetime game that was over before halftime.
Yeah. All right, let's get to Monday Night Football, another brutal primetime game. It's been I don't know why all these primetime games have been so bad. 49ers beat the LA Rams 24-9.
Who brags last brags the best, and I was right. Both of you guys questioned how the 49ers can be favored versus the Rams because the 49ers own the Rams. Unfortunately, in this world and in this script, Shanahan over McVay, unless they need to get the Rams to the Super Bowl. It's that simple. Tuck your chain. Debo was out here doing his thing, and they dominated this game with defense and play calling. And Jimmy G said it best at the end of the game. He got the Yak Bros, and he has a great defense. So he just has to show up and look handsome.
Yeah, and that's all he did. Showed up and looked handsome, got the ball to the playmakers by hook or by crook, and they went out there and made plays for him. Jeff Wilson Jr. getting the job done in the run game. Kyle Shanahan just schemes up such a beautiful run concepts. The fake toss, bringing up the middle, it's ISO. They just do their thing. Not having Trent Williams didn't really look too bad in the run game there. They managed to move the ball in that area. And Deebo Samuel obviously made the big explosive play. Jalen Ramsey, that's a tackle you got to make there, guy. That's what you're there for. To make that tackle, you got to make that play. And obviously for the Rams offensive line, it doesn't look salvageable at this point. They went all in on Bobby Wagner. They went all in on Allen Robinson. They probably should have went all in on having some offensive line talent, because that's clearly where it's lacking. They can't protect Matthew Stafford at all. They're just running screens and dump offs to Cooper Kupp because that's all they have time to do. They can't run the football at all. They're one of the worst run teams in the NFL. Cam Akers, this is why you don't come off of Achilles injuries after 5 months, because he looks like a shell of himself. And Darrell Henderson can't get it going either. Obviously, San Fran's defense is elite. Fred Warner guarded Cooper Kupp in the end zone, one of the highlight plays of the weekend. Yeah, San Fran, they Shanahan owns McVay unless it's the playoffs. They did whatever they wanted to him. The long pick six that shut the door on this one. Niners defense is elite. Rams, they have a lot of questions, especially on that offensive line with Micah Parsons coming to town.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how this league, especially in this division, it goes Shanahan, McVay. Shanahan shits on McVay. McVay shits on Kingsbury. It's just like absolute tears in this.
And we're going to talk about what Pete Carroll does to Shanahan.
And it's just crazy how this division just like shits on each other, but they can lose to everyone else except the team they can absolutely shit on. But yeah, I'm concerned about the Rams. They really can't protect Matthew Stafford. Andrew Whitworth was a big loss in the offseason. Yeah, it's the Cooper Kupp show and pray, pretty much.
Is it clear that the two coaches that we talked about in the AFC West are on the hot seat and Mr. Frank Reich? Oh, Eric's going to go with Matt Rule. So
Yeah.
which coach for the
Matt Rule, of course. Nathaniel Hackett, yeah, that's looking like a one and done. It's hard to go one and done, but that's looking like a one and done.
And Frank Reich is over there hiding away in Indianapolis, hoping that they can blame Matt Ryan.
Oh, and we got to put Ron Rivera on there too. They put a lot of investment in that team and that quarterback. They gave up all their cap space. They gave up mid-round picks. They put a bunch of weapons. There's 4 first-round picks in that D-line.
They have one more Hail Mary. They have one more Hail Mary. His name is Chase Young. And if he could come back and be that DPOY that Eric predicted that he would have been, we're still going to wait for that, I guess.
Hey, that was last year. That was last year, not this year.
It's only gotten worse since you predicted that. If he could come back and save the season, make that defense respectable. But their defense is bad. You can't have a bad offensive line and a bad defense. That's how you get beat every week.